black smoke. The sun is high and casts a godlike glare on the glass from where she's standing. While clear summer days like this are always oppressively warm, our heroine embraces the heat now. She's barefoot, dressed in her thinnest vest and shorts with a gallon of ice water close to hand. Presently she tends to the soil surrounding her marrows, lightly misting it with a spray gun, whistling a tune as she goes. This is her theme song of purpose, the soundtrack of diligence, reminding her that she can cope and that all the demanding work is well within her grasp. Digging the soil, pruning the trees, trimming the bushes, planting and watering, edging and weeding, cutting, sowing, germinating and scarifying. There are times when her responsibilities seem endless, like staring at a snow-covered summit in the distance, already overwhelmed by the atmosphere of base camp. But this is how it's done, pressing forward one step at a time, ticking off tasks slow but sure, only resting when such relief is needed and well earned. It's a routine, a rigid commitment, reaping results via patient consistency, repetition, uniformity, unflustered persistence. She created this huge cornucopia in a vacuum, single-handedly willed it into existence, and the results speak for themselves. Dense plant communities oxygenate the air with their healthy green foliage. Hydrangeas convene in vast huddles of varying colour. Roses bloom from rows of bushes, many perfectly proportioned and vibrantly red. For early July, the vegetables are already showing maturity, proudly swelling into mouth-watering crops. Luscious tomatoes plead to be picked. Curvaceous marrows sprout and sprawl in the shade, and florets of broccoli form pure congregations of elegant green. She smiles, envisioning winners' garlands and shiny gold trophies, bowing on stage and discussing her methods to rapturous applause. Time travelling, she scolds herself, shaking her head. Stay on task, stay focused. Though the rewards will surely come, there is still much work to be done. Those who choose to bask and luxuriate are quick to become idle, and lost momentum is hard to rebuild. When our heroine picks up a spade and moves on to the next task, her whistling becomes louder, melodic and smoothly continuous. While tilling is a precarious exercise, as digging too much or too little can cause equal harm, nowadays she's reduced it to an exact science. Heavily compacted soil like this is in need of loosening, breaking down to form air pockets conducive for growth. Beads of sweat trickle down her brow as she turns over the soil, moving methodically from one section to next. Hours can disappear when she shifts into autopilot like this. Time loses its significance and the days merge into one. An indistinguishable blur of work and sleep, work and sleep. While there's wariness to the practice, a quiet desperation in following the formula, she knows it will soon all be worth it. Her industrious trance has many names. Being the zone, dedicated to the moment, fully in flow, lost in a state of uninhibited hyperfocus. Although, from her perspective, she is merely doing what comes naturally. And good practice begets further good practice. Positive results attract more of the same, like an everlasting spiral feeding off itself and showing no signs of diminishing. This is her blossoming kingdom, and long may she reign. Our heroine's loud oral practice is not merely therapeutic, it also sets a tempo, a rhythm that has kept her on track since sunrise this morning. Just as the sun stimulates growth, the sound inspires her movements, urging her on as afternoon fades into evening. But then, without warning, a discordant note issues from her lips. Such lapses are rare, which makes them all the more apparent, disrupting her flow like an aberrant crease in an endless spool of wallpaper. Though she attempts to recover, her rhythm is broken. A once flawless soundtrack is thrown out of kilter. The mellifluous tune and faultless timing cannot be restored, no matter how hard she tries. And now her effort is forced and conspicuous. She blows dissonant note after dissonant note. Not to worry, she concludes, and decides to continue her work in silence. The spade in her hand soon starts to feel heavy, however, cumbersome and unwieldy. And as she digs into a new patch of soil, she experiences her first clang of resistance. Our heroine crouches down to inspect the obstruction, discovering a clump of rock lodged deep in the ground. No time for this, she considers, and moves on to the next section. But now there are blisters on her palm she hadn't noticed before, inches away from an old battle scar, the mark left on her wrist by a pair of sharp secateurs. It's at this point she perceives a curious presence in a floral sanctuary, dark yet somehow familiar, leaving her with a sense that she's no longer alone. When looking straight ahead, all seems to be well. It's only her peripheral vision that warns something is amiss. She attempts to ignore the unnerving intrusion, gripping her spade handle once more and wincing with discomfort on each laboured strike. She's bleeding now and the pain is intolerable. With a low groan, she allows the spade to slip from her hands, before holding them up and despairing at the sight. They're totally ravaged. Calluses have broken and gruesome blisters have formed. Yet this seems to be the least of her worries. From the corners of her eyes, she observes the unwanted visitor creeping further in. It's clearer now, no longer just a feeling. Black smoke, entering with nebulous intent. His origin unknown, his reason inscrutable. Though there's no smoke without fire, as the old saying goes, this appears to be an exception. She doesn't smell burning, or perceive a flicker of flame. Just a hanging black mist permeating the borders of her sight like some grave apparition. Furthermore, now that she's acknowledged him, no longer does he skulk on the sidelines. He's permeating the space directly in front of her. "What are you?" she says aloud. "Where have you come from? What do you want?" Though she doesn't expect an answer, the haze eerily grows and darkens the air even further. His movements are unlike any seen before. Smoke from fire twists and coils from its source, yet this substance seems to emanate from a million unseen angles. The only thing she knows for certain is the danger he poses. The smog will choke her leafy oxygenators, destroy her flowers and contaminate her soil. The vegetables won't swell or ripen, and all will be lost. This is an invasion, an assault on her kingdom. If she doesn't take action, she'll surrender everything she's so tirelessly worked for. Panicked then, she cries for it to leave, sprinting back and forth, flapping her arms wildly in the air. But the smoke is strangely undisturbed by a manic interference. It proliferates unheeding, spreading, coalescing, growing thicker by the second. She picks up a burlap sack, fanning the air until her arms become tired. Remarkably still, nothing changes. The substance seems to defy physics or logic entirely. She opens windows, sets up fans and switches them on. When nothing comes of this, anger starts to swell in her chest, and she slumps to the ground in an exasperated heap. She can't ask for help. She won't ask for help. And soon she concedes that nothing can be done. You cannot fight an enemy when your hand passes straight through him. What use is pleading with an aggressor who can't even hear? Though her vast greenhouse is dark now, she's certain the sunlight will endure for an hour or two longer. And while there remains enough light for her to see, she must continue with her duties. With her hands in such a state, tasks like digging or planting are out of the question. "I'll prune the rose bushes," she thinks, before dressing her wounds and finding a pair of small bypass shears. The serious threat posed by her ominous trespasser is soon brought into question when she kneels next to the roses, who seem strangely unaffected by the smoke lingering around them. For whatever reason, she'd been certain their demise would be imminent. Yet here they are, showing no signs of interference whatsoever. She glances around and notes that no other damage has been done. Everything in her vicinity remains entirely unchanged. Apparently, the only affliction incurred is the dimness of the greenhouse, which is darker than it should be in these final hours before twilight takes hold. "Ha! You're harmless," she mutters, triumphant. "All fangs and no venom, all bark and no bite." As confident as she'd once been that devastation was imminent, she's now equally sure that the smoke has no power of any kind. She tuts. "Hang around then, why don't you? See if I care." Truthfully, however, our heroine is still irked by his presence, still plagued by an urge to know his intentions. And when she starts to prune the roses, she makes another uncomfortable discovery. These supposed prize winners are not as magnificent as they've once seemed. After her last examination, she was certain the flowers were impeccable, vibrant, full-bodied and perfectly formed. But on closer inspection, she notes that many are too tightly wrapped, with withering edges and short crooked stems. Sadly, she can't blame the smoke for such things. It's clear now that she'd simply shielded herself from the truth, regarding the buds with hope rather than scrutiny. The fantasies of garlands and gold trophies start to fade in her mind. Hours later, she climbs into bed and turns out the light. Although she's completely exhausted and sleep comes quickly, her slumber is accompanied by torturous nightmares. The glass walls of her greenhouse are shattered by explosions. Each of her crops is reduced to ash, and every inch of soil is replaced by thick black sludge. Our heroine wades through it and weeps, knowing all hope is lost. She's wasted her life, spent countless hours working and has nothing but misery to show for it. What's more, the smoke never even existed. Complacency was the cause of her fall from grace. She is the sole culprit of the destruction surrounding her. At dawn, she wakes with a start and returns to the greenhouse, praying that yesterday was just another bad dream. But it's exactly how she left it. The smoke continues as it was, taunting her, obscuring the light but still causing no discernible harm. And why would he need to? Irrespective of external interference, her produce is mediocre. She'd never created a cornucopia, just a tawdry glass building full of inferior life. His sudden emergence is of no consequence, and ironically, she's now seeing clearer than she'd ever seen before. It's obvious that she'd merely been delusional, foolishly believed that her efforts could manifest glory. She sits down in the dirt for a moment, wallowing in self-pity, viewing her surroundings through a dim veil of fog. Then after a while, she realizes there's no option but to move again, to tend to the dismal garden, this transparent prison of her own making. So, naively, she attempts to coexist with her unwelcome visitor, toiling away while he lingers beside her. As expected, she cannot summon a whistle, and all her tasks seem pointless and bleak. Planting seeds, what's the point when it only perpetuates a more burdensome workload? Pruning roses, why bother when they're pale and ill-formed? While all is obscured by a hanging dark mist, no blooming flowers can ever be vivid. How can she derive joy from a place where the sun no longer shines? Once more she slumps to the ground, too weary now to even humour what she knows is a senseless charade, eyeing the shears and grimly pondering their sharpness. Then after an hour or so passes, a thought strikes her like a shower of rain. The smoke isn't here for her plants. It's here for her. It's sapping her will, infecting each thought until its meaning is contorted. But thoughts aren't facts, our heroine suddenly remembers. She is the one who decides to impart meaning upon them, not this vile intruder who can't even speak. Thoughts aren't facts, she stands up and shouts. Thoughts aren't facts. And just as the words issue from her mouth, the smoke starts to fade. She screams the sentence again and further he diminishes, weakening, dying, disappearing into nowhere like vapour in the wind. She stumbles forward on shaky legs, recollecting that her last meal was yesterday's breakfast. Though appetites are hard things to summon when distracted by unwanted visitors, at present hers is fierce and the kitchen is calling her. She fries an omelette and quickly devours it, only realising now how hungry she'd been. After this, she makes a phone call to her most supportive friend, mentioning the black smoke, which she knows all too well, before fielding a series of questions heard many times before. "Yes, I'm safe," she says. "Yes, I've just eaten." "I want you to stay away from secateurs and other sharp things for the time being, okay?" Our heroine glances at the old scar on her wrist. "Okay." "Well, let's forget about the competitions now too. You're worth so much more than that." But nothing," her friend says firmly. "When you started this amazing project of yours, what was it, 6 years ago now?" 7. "Well, I know your goal was never to impress judges or win a bunch of meaningless accolades either." Our heroine looks down. "I suppose not." "No, you had a very specific, uniquely wonderful plan. Remind me, what was it?" "Come on, you know what it was." "Yes, but I want you to repeat it." "Fine," she sighs. "My goal was to cultivate an array of produce," she says in an almost mechanical fashion. "To sustain my business by selling the flowers and plants, allowing me to give away all the consumables to people in need." "And are you still doing that? Are hundreds of people still benefiting from your generous contributions? And is your business still thriving? Are you still arranging bouquets, potting plants, and earning enough money to continue?" "Yes, but the awards would..." "The awards are a happy bonus," a friend interjects. "Do you seriously believe everything would fall apart if you went one season without a few silly gold trophies?" "Maybe not." "Never lose sight of your true goals," her friend says forcibly. "For goodness sake, just look at everything you've accomplished. You've created a cornucopia with your own 2 hands. Who else could do that?" After her phone call, our heroine returns to the newest rose bushes. And with fresh eyes, she is able to appreciate them once more. Though this variety won't bloom again until autumn, even now she can tell they have promise. With the air clear again, she can see that hers is a world worth preserving. With the black smoke gone, hope has room to re-emerge. Thank you very much for making it all the way to the end of the video. If you haven't already, please subscribe, and a like and a share would also be much appreciated.